Hey everybody, it's Christina Louise. Welcome to Parenting for a Peaceful Home. I am so excited to be here with you today and really excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine named Annie Grace. She is a consistent top seller on Amazon for her book, This Naked Mind, talking about parenting and alcoholism. And she's also a regular contributor to the New York Daily News in health and wellness and alcohol. So I'm really excited to present this to you today. Please remember there's no judgment here. We're here to support you and awaken you to this, how strong you are with or without alcohol in your life. God bless you all and welcome, Annie Grace.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's wonderful to be here. Really great.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you feel the same way that I do. I'm really excited to dive with you into this topic. But before we get into it, how did you get interested in this arena?
Well, it was my own experience. I was a mom in a corporate world with two young boys. And, after my second son was born, you go through the 9 months of abstinence. And for some reason, I felt like, okay, well, I've proven that I don't have a problem by giving it up during pregnancy. And so, 2 kids is really stressful. And I just started drinking, and it turned into every night drinking, and it turned into drinking for work and drinking for fun and drinking to relax. And there was a point where just, wanting a drink and enjoying a drink kind of turned into like, I really felt like I needed a drink. And there was a time where I just looked in the mirror after a big night and realized I wasn't giving the best of myself to my kids. And I really wanted to cut back. I didn't want to stop altogether. I just wanted to cut back. And I found it not as easy as I wanted. And I didn't resonate with a lot of the existing kind of literature and programs out there. They weren't for me. I didn't feel as if I was personally an alcoholic. I didn't feel like I had that sort of problem. I knew I could stop drinking for weeks at a time without withdrawal issues. So I just felt like it had a really mental, emotional grasp on me. I didn't want to feel like I needed anything. And so I started doing my own research and really discovered some stuff about I felt that I had this deep unconscious conditioning around alcohol from media, from my own experience, from my own life. And so there was this belief that I needed it to relax or have a good time that didn't exist before. It didn't exist 10 years in my past. It didn't exist when I was a child, certainly. And so I did a bunch of research into how I could change my unconscious beliefs, how I could change my perspective and do kind of a mindset shift. And that took me about a year. But at the end of that, I was able to just let alcohol go, just like not even wanting to drink on occasion. I just didn't even want to put it in my body anymore. It was really empowering. And I had all these journals about it. And I put my journals online in this really rough format of a book, and 20,000 people downloaded it. Like, it kind of went viral. It was nuts. And it was via LinkedIn, which is the craziest thing. But I think there's a lot of successful professional parents out there who drink more than they want to be, and it creates all this cognitive dissonance. And so when it went crazy like that, I was like, all right, well, I think I should make it a book. And that's what I did almost 2 years ago now.
Okay, so tell me more about, that's amazing. Congratulations on your success. That's really cool. And just proof how when you're in alignment, when you're in your authenticity, these miracles can happen for us, right? And just totally take you in a whole nother direction that obviously is delighting you and surprising you. So good for you. But what I'm really interested in here is this unconscious belief, and where do you think that comes from? And can we just talk a little bit more about what you mean when you say this conditioning about alcohol and needing it to relax and that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if you go onto social media, not only are all your friends posting pictures of their drinks and how they're rewarding themselves at the end of a long day, but if you turn on the TV, it's completely prevalent. Every single movie we watch, detective shows, the policeman's popping a beer after the homicide scene to relieve their stress. There's groups on social media, Mommy Loves Vodka, or, different things like that to really tell us that, okay, life can be hard and this is one of the answers. And so I think we do a lot of things to support ourselves through kind of the stresses of life and parenting and everything, and exercise, mindfulness, etc. But for me, I was worried about those things until I kind of realized that, well, I'm here's a long day. I could, pack up the kids in the jogging stroller and go for a run, or I could pop open a bottle of wine. And it just seemed like the easier option. So all of a sudden, all this conditioning about like, yeah, that's easy to relieve stress was really reconfirmed by when I would pop open that bottle of wine and I reached what it does in your brain. It slows down your thinking. So it kind of overwhelms the thinking mind, which in turn relieves your stress. And I felt like, so it really reinforced this idea that yes, it does. It relaxes me at the end of a hard day. The problem is that when you start, you have all these things you're relying on, your exercise, your mindfulness, you start just drinking instead and you take all those away. And then all of a sudden, all you're doing, at least in my experience, was I was just relying on the wine. And that is just not a long-term fix because you need more of it to do the same thing. And then it becomes detrimental to your health. You start feeling badly the next day and all these things happen. So I think the unconscious conditioning starts externally, but then it's really strongly reinforced internally when we turn to wine or whatever our beverage of choice is for things like stress relief. And all of a sudden we build this, I lost all my other coping mechanisms. I've had to build them back up since I stopped drinking and say, okay, I'm having a hard day. There's other things I can do. But I just started relying so much and so heavily on just the drink that it became really imbalanced, and you can't stay firmly grounded when you're just supporting yourself on this one thing that actually, was kind of harmful in the long run at the levels I was drinking, at least.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for explaining that. So what would you say to a mom who's resonating with your story about she feels like she's drinking too much, but maybe she doesn't really want to go to AA and she doesn't feel like she has a physical addiction, but she's realizing that there's probably other more productive, fun things, healthier things that she could be doing with her time? What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, I'd first say that you're just not alone. I mean, there was a statistic that came out recently that said of people who regularly drink, so drink, most nights of the week, not all, but most, 75% of them actually wish at some point that they drank less. So we really are not alone in this, but it's one of these things that's really taboo. So like Christina, you and I could sit here and be eating sugared donuts and we would be talking about, but there's so many calories and fat and the sugars, blah, blah. But we don't really do that. If we were sitting over a glass of Chardonnay, we wouldn't be talking about, but the breast cancer and the this and that. It's really taboo to talk about alcohol, especially in the sense of you have a problem, because I believe our culture has sort of separated it into alcoholics and non-alcoholics. And if you're not an alcoholic, then you certainly shouldn't have any problem and you should just be rah about alcohol. And so I think first is knowing that you're not alone and knowing that it shouldn't be as taboo as it is to have this conversation. I mean, we should feel empowered to say, would my life be better if I was drinking a bit less? And then we also feel empowered to, if we try to drink a bit less and don't find it easy, to try to find some help. And I mean, obviously I'd recommend my book because it was the answer for me, but there's lots of different ways and paths out there. And I don't even think it's about needing help as much as it is about needing just a mindset shift to just say, okay, is this adding to my life or is this taking from it? Like, am I giving my power away to a substance in a glass here? And I really felt like that's what I was doing, is I was just giving my power away. I mean, I'm not the type of person that wants to feel like I need much, besides higher power in my family and, breath and whatnot, but I certainly didn't want to need booze. And so I think that, just knowing that it's totally normal. It's not as if you're not the problem. Alcohol is addictive. And if you drink too much of it, especially to relieve stress, your brain rewires in a sense that it becomes emotionally, if not physically addicted. And I luckily stopped at the emotional part, but you can go further. And just doing more of the same isn't going to get you anywhere good. But I'd also say that the really good news is that these things that we believe them really strongly. Like, I was so convinced that I needed alcohol to relax or to de-stress or to socialize or to network, but they're just not true. So once you start to uncover those beliefs and say, okay, is this true? Which is the whole process of my book, is just uncovering those beliefs really methodically and saying, is this actually true evidentially, scientifically? Is this true in my life? Can I experiment with it? Can I try to go to a play date and not have the wine and see what happens? you realize that they're not true. And realizing that it's not true, that you don't need alcohol to relax. I mean, there's nothing more empowering. There's nothing more like, oh yes, because we're strong. We're moms, we're humans, we are strong people. And we shouldn't let strength away to anything else. And so I think it's really empowering when you start to uncover that these things that you think are so true, and you feel afraid to stop drinking for this, or even cut back for this reason or that reason. Like, the fear is unfounded, and it's just not true. I mean, I'm certainly having a better time, now drinking really nothing than I ever was when I was really heavily drinking and feeling like I needed alcohol.
Mm-hmm. So what, in your opinion, is the problem with alcohol? You talked about this research that you did. What did you find in your research?
I think, there's nothing, I don't believe any substance or anything can really be inherently sort of bad or evil. So I don't think that alcohol is evil or bad. I do think that when things are addictive, there's one thing that they do in your brain, and this is nicotine, caffeine, heroin, everything else, and it overstimulates your pleasure center. And so you think this is great because you're like, okay, great, something I can drink and it makes me feel really good. The problem is that by overstimulating your pleasure center, these euphoria things, your body is trying to maintain homeostasis. It's always trying to come back to zero, back to normal. And so when you overstimulate it, your brain actually releases a counter chemical. It's called dynorphin, and it brings you back down. And so you need more wine, you can start with a glass and you feel great, but then you need 2 glasses to feel great. And then you need 3 glasses, because your brain is always trying to bring down that pleasure. And eventually your brain will release so much of this counter chemical over time that you stop being able to find pleasure without the alcohol. And eventually you stop being able to find pleasure at all. And that's way far down the spectrum. I mean, you hear about chronic alcoholics who just can't even function without drinking. They can't even get out of bed in the morning without drinking. And that's clearly much further down than sort of the people my book speaks to. But it is true that I didn't feel like I was going to have a good time. If I was the designated driver, I'd be in a bad mood all night. And part of that was just mental, because I believed I needed it, so I did. But part of it was really physical, because when you drink more and more, it's not something, it's never a cure, right? It's a Band-Aid. So it's something that you kind of put over an emotion. And yes, it will numb it. For if there's stress in your life and you're not dealing with the source of the stress, whether it's, whatever it is, in a healthful way that actually heals, you're just covering it up and you're exacerbating it. And that's both mental and physical. And, ultimately you can really steal your brain's ability chemically to experience pleasure. So things that used to bring you pleasure, like reading a book or coffee with a girlfriend, they don't register the same way once you've been chronically drinking, daily drinking for a few years. You stop feeling pleasure without the drink. And I think that's really scary. But again, I don't think that, drinking on occasion is bad. I think it turns into, and the evidence shows this scientifically, it turns a bit scary when it starts to be as a relief, or as if you're drinking to numb feelings, to numb emotions, to deal with stress like I was, that's when these things start really happening. If you're drinking on occasion socially to enjoy yourself, the evidence shows that doesn't happen. I will say, though, that my drinking did start on occasion to enjoy myself. And then I realized, oh, well, this also does these other things. And so it did spiral, over the course of a decade, from occasional drinking with friends or out at, work events to daily drinking. And then that's when it really started I was like, I'm not happy doing this anymore. It wasn't making me happy anymore. And that was the tolerance.
Mm-hmm. So what did you find that worked for you when you wanted to stop numbing and start dealing with these feelings? That might be scary for some of these moms that are watching today. They might think, well, what am I going to do if I don't numb this feeling? What did you find that worked for you? Or how does somebody go on their own journey to discover what might be a better way?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 2 things. I mean, first is you can remember what worked for you before you started drinking. So in college, I was kind of an athlete and I did a lot of stuff, and that always made me feel great, but you forget those things. And then, studies show us that exercise, without a shadow of a doubt, has more antidepressant, anti-stress chemicals released in your body than any medication. So I think exercise is just massive and huge. I personally took up Taekwondo. So my husband and I do that together a few times a week. Our kids do it. We love it. Yoga is a great thing, or just, I love to run as well. I also, ironically, I grew up in a very, my parents were self-proclaimed hippies. There was tons of meditation, and I had tried it when I was little, and I could never clear my mind of thoughts. So I just thought I was completely a failure in that arena. But after I stopped drinking, I really felt this internal dialogue that was quite negative all the time. And it was incessant, and there was no alcohol to turn it off. And so it's like, oh, I have to do something about this. And so I didn't start meditating initially. I really just started paying attention to, wow, I'm talking to myself in such a bad way. And I forget where I read it. It might've been Byron Katie or someone else, but it was like, would you talk to a friend like that? Would you talk to someone you love like that? So if you start feeling really bad, just sort of stop and say, okay, what did I just hear? What was just said in my mind? And often for me, it would be like, oh, come on, Amy, what are you doing? Your kids are like, they don't even respect you. And blah, blah, blah. Like, it was just really negative. And I'd say, would I say that to my friend? And I personally just wrote it down, whatever I said, and said, whoa, that is horrible. That's mean. And I realized I need to treat myself in my head like I would treat someone I love. And even if I don't feel it, I need to start doing that. And I actually made it in my house. Like, my kids would do the same thing. They'd be like, I hate myself. I'm so dumb. And, you get a timeout. If you say your brother's dumb, you get a time. Now, if you're saying you're dumb too, like, you can't in our house to the point where, we weren't like tolerant of being mean to someone else or being mean to yourself. And I think that really was a big change. And then eventually I did start just kind of sitting and breathing. I've never been able to stop thinking. I don't know, maybe people can, maybe I'm just not there yet, but just that really, it's amazing. It wasn't linear. It wasn't like I'd sit down and just concentrate on my breathing for 10 minutes and then I'd wake up this, happy, flowery person. But it was really over time when I do that on a regular basis that I'd realize that, wow, I feel a bit better. Like, the voice in my head has kind of calmed down. Like, I'm a bit happier overall. And so it was a really gradual thing that kind of snowballed to the point where, it really helped. But all of these things, it's funny, we're so looking for the quick flip. We're looking for pour the glass of wine, pop the bottle, do these things that are really quick, turn on the TV, get on Facebook, and immediately take us out of our situation. And none of those quick things last. But if you put your time into, okay, I'm gonna put the work in to think about how I'm talking to myself internally, or to just sit and focus on my breathing and have some peace in my day, or to actually go out and get some exercise. Those things, it's like an investment. It accumulates over time and starts paying you back interest and dividends, and it's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. The cumulative effect, right? That's really what we're looking for. I love that you brought up this quick fix idea. And I've never been a drinker personally, other things, but not drinking.
Right.
And so I didn't think about alcohol in that, but I do know what you're saying about this social conditioning. When people invite me out, they're like, oh, let's go and have a drink. And I'm like, I don't want to drink, but I feel like if I don't have a drink with you, then I'm going to be the odd person out. And then I don't know. So there is a lot of this social conditioning going on, and kind of pressure for us to join in what everybody else is doing. And we do see it all over TV, and it can be so easy to take that easy, quick fix out. And I'm just so grateful that you wrote this book and that you're addressing this topic with compassion and gentleness. And really, you're not judging anybody. It seems like you're just really here to help people understand and question this aspect of life and come up with their own plan, rather than just kind of going with the mainstream flow, which is let's get drunk and deal with our problems that way. Earlier today, you were telling me about these mommy and me. I guess you mentioned it here on the recording too, but these mommy and vodka and that kind of thing. God bless women. I just want to say that I believe that you believe the same thing, but I just want to state that everybody's trying to feel good. And I think that's where both Annie and I are coming from here, is that we're all just doing the best that we can with the information that we have. And we're all just trying to feel better. And I really love your approach, Annie, for how to gently and easily, really for the long term, right, in a healthy way, feel better. And it's so true about that cumulative effect of, like, meditating for 5 or 10 minutes might not make a huge difference today, but if we do that for the next 3 days, right, it does make a big difference. Or exercising for 10 minutes a day does make a big difference at the end of the week. So I love that approach. I know you have a stellar free gift for the moms today. Can we get into that now?
Yeah, of course. And I think just to tag along, I think the whole approach is not about rules, it's about freedom. And some people read the book and stop drinking. Some people read the book and still drink on occasion. Like, there's no wrong answer. It is what works for you. It's just bringing it into the mind, being mindful of your relationship with alcohol and just not letting it take anything from you. Make sure that it's serving you instead of the other way around, because I was certainly, not being served. But my free gift is just the book. I want to share it far and wide. So if you go to the link, you can get both PDF or EPUB copies of the book to put on your phone and just read it and hopefully get something out of it.
That's awesome. So I know that book usually sells for like $10 on Amazon as a bestseller, but today you're giving away the first 40 pages for free. And all you guys have
for free.
Oh, the whole thing for free? Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's even better. So go ahead, Mom, click the link below this video and take advantage of Annie's free gift, that amazing book, The Naked Mind. And make sure that, I love how you put that alcohol is serving you instead of the other way around. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share before we sign off for now?
No, I just say that, we need to just remember that we're really strong. We don't need these things that don't serve us. And I think we should just take back our strength. When you see those posts that, the mom's happy meal is a bottle of wine and a Xanax, it can be funny, but it can also be really undermining, because you start to believe that that's true, that you need something externally to deal with your kids and your job and your husband all at once, or whatever your family situation is. And you don't. I mean, we're amazingly strong. We just have to find it sometimes. So thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. And I was just thinking, if we're strong enough to carry that child for 9 months and then help it come into the world through our own tiny, I'm just going to say it, tiny vaginas, then I think we're strong enough to make it through raising that child and connecting with that child and supporting that child without the need for anything that could kill you at the end of the day, right? Because at the end of the day, alcohol is a poison. And if we're going to choose to poison ourselves, let's do that mindfully, like you said, and consciously, like you said, and not because everybody says that that's the way that you have to handle your life, and because everybody else is doing it, so do you. Yeah. Thank God you're here, Annie, taking a stand for us as women and standing up to this. Because now I'm starting to wonder, like, are they doing that on purpose? Like, is there somebody out there that's like, ooh, let's target moms and get them to buy more of our prescription drugs? And oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I've never seen that meme. You're in this niche that it's not my thing. And that's why I have you here today to educate us all. I had no idea that moms were up against it in that way until I met you. So God bless you, and thank you for doing the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, moms, that's it for today, but be sure to grab the free gift link before it goes away. Annie's book, The Naked Mind. Thanks again, Annie, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another video.